Some people arrive in Santorini thinking that the locals all live in infinity pools. That's just an Instagram myth. Join me as I chat to Mariapetrenko, where we smash some myths. Maria, welcome to the Nifty Travel Podcast.
Awesome.
Well, the first thing I always like to ask my guests is about your earliest memories of travel.
It's actually, it depends because if we talk about travel back in my home country, it's Crimea, which used to be Ukraine, now it's Russia. Before it was part of Greece. So I remember going to the sea, and that's when I said my first word, which was supermarket. So already on the road, I was thinking, where's all the snacks, and why didn't my family pack all my snacks? But I remember this feeling of being in a moving car and then stepping out and seeing the water. And I've always been drawn to water, so that's why I really enjoy living here in the small island. So this visual, the shimmering water, it kind of stuck with me. I don't know why. It's just there's something enchanting about it. Just
Yeah.
give me a lake, a marsh, water, river, anything. I can just stare at it for ages.
Fantastic. So, um, do you think it gave you a strong indication of what you would be very interested in later, or did it come about by a different route?
I would say it gave me the feeling that I have to be in motion, and I did end up living in different places. I lived in Spain, now I'm living in Greece, and for me, the concept of home and the concept of travel, it's kind of I like being on the move, but also I'm trying to reconcile my values. Let's say my ideal vision of what life should be with how I work in travel, which was a difficult journey. Which is where I have to say about this that you can do it, but it takes time. So I think it was an indication I was going to be on the move and looking for things.
Absolutely. But travel wasn't your first interest. So um, I read that you're interested in copywriting and doing language
Yeah,
translating.
yeah.
So how did you get into that?
So again, because I've always loved stories, and as a kid, I wanted to be many things. Whatever story I was reading, I wanted to be a dragon. So I don't think there is a career right now, even if you do go to New Zealand. So I wanted to have something I could do to leave space for my writing, because again, unfortunately, my family wasn't very supportive, and they were saying, no, it's not a real career. You're not going to get published. It's impossible. So I thought, okay, let me practice languages. It's something compatible. I can do translation and I can write in my free time. But again, with between the machine translation, with the way I wasn't so good at networking as a student, as a recent graduate, it ended up not being possible financially and practically to just do a little bit of translation and then do a lot of writing, how you imagine it would go. So shifting into tourism helped me keep what I love about it, using all the languages I speak, telling all the stories, and it's actually closer to what I enjoy doing for a living than just being at my computer and translating text.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think that travel became something you were much more interested in?
When it clicked, because again, here in Greece, there is a gradation, there is a variety of hosts, there is different ways you can present your destination. In Athens, it's more history oriented, but in Santorini, it's actually more interpretation. Like you have to explain the place why it's the way it is, and it's very close to interpreting text, but in real life. Like you have to read the room, you read the person, you they trust you. They have this moment of awe when they want their dream to come alive. And this is exactly what translation is. Like you want, again, ideally, if you're not working with medical text, which is never something I enjoyed, if you have this fantastic work of fiction, you want this alive in a different language for those people to get the same feeling from it. And unfortunately it's underappreciated. So here, when people come from their homelands and they see this new place and they have their dreams, their mamma mia, all of their things in their heads, you want to reconcile their reality with what's around you. Maybe keep it not too real because it's not always nice, but also not too much of a fantasy because then it's a different problem. And this is constant calibration. I keep saying we're the human GPTs before ChatGPT. We're always answering the same questions and calibrating on our feet.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you visited other countries before your interest turned towards Greece. Um, so what was it like for you going to Spain?
It was super charming in terms of like I picked Spanish as my second language, as my second foreign language. So it was something I was really looking forward to, and the country, culture, language I've been in love with for a while. But in terms of living there, I didn't get the sense that I belonged there, which is very interesting because they're very similar cultures. We're both in Mediterranean space, very family oriented values, very hard to be an outsider. I live alone, well, with my sister, but like we're pretty isolated. We don't have, beyond our grandma, we don't have any immediate relatives here, and she passed away. So we're pretty much with our friends network. So I found out here, Greek islands with such active tourism and so many workplaces, so much work foreigners, you can build your network of oddballs. Whereas in Spain, I didn't see this kind of community. I was a little bit early because now, like Barcelona, there's a startup culture. It may be easier nowadays, but I was just a bit early. So at the time when I was trying to build a network, build a career, I felt like I was too much of an outsider without like a foot in the door.
Yeah. Well, when I was looking down your bio, I noticed uh, one of the jobs you had said it was a super cook, and
Yeah, I also
I was
work for a cooking app. It's
yeah, yeah, but it was something entirely different. So
yeah,
you're interested in the the computer world as well.
yeah. I'm so sort of in the middle. It's what I really like about the new travel space. There's tour operators who are coding their own CRMs and travel tech being good and bad and all kinds. But like there is a niche for people like me who love interpreting, who love tech, and who love travel. So like we can really be building new solutions to the old problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we do need help in the travel space. There's so much information. So
Hmm.
before you started your own tourist operation, which was a fairly recent
Yeah,
event,
pretty much. Yeah, over winter.
um, you spent quite a long time uh, in the hospitality sector. So um, tell us what your early impressions were, and how did it lead to what you're doing today?
So it's actually, again, I'm a resilient idealist from everything that happens to me. I had this chat with the wife of the owner, and unfortunately, she started having health problems, so she withdrew from the business. And when we worked together for a while, he was doing what I do now. He would stop randomly, pick an herb, and give it to people to smell, just and say you have to also like you have to activate your senses. He wasn't doing anything mindful or spiritual. He was just like smell a herb, but it was such a good idea, like picking herbs, stopping randomly, doing spontaneous jokes, and it was really a fun thing to do. He was like a fun uncle. But in the end, between the pandemic, the loss of profits, the constant staff rotation, the general way of things how we have hundreds of tour operators on the island. Everybody's a tour operator. So you have to imagine all of these workers are very enterprising and could be really motivated to stay with you, but they like I'm going to compare this to a weird thing, but it's like a pirate crew. You got to give them shares of the bounty, or people will go and start their own business. So that's the problem. We're not a corporate world where the boss can sit far away from you, and that's what he started doing. He stopped picking herbs, or he would do it mechanically, and instead he would buy a beer and just give clients beer randomly on the wine tour. So you can feel he's trying to do the old gestures, but he lost the passion for it. It feels mechanical, like I gotta do it because I've been doing this 20 years. I gotta do it again. but it's something between burnout, fatigue, like. So this vision, though, when you pick an herb, when you lead people through these little moments, it's what I'm trying to do now, but as myself, without anybody telling me to stop, or we got time, or, I mean, the cruise ship is leaving, but if they're hotel guests, we're not going anywhere. So it comes from this moment when I thought, okay, this is how it should go. It shouldn't be a history lecture or a scripted thing. When you have a private experience, the joy of it is we can stop on the side of the road and go herb picking, if that makes sense.
Right. So, well, Greece is a big country, and it has many islands. So, and I see from some research I was doing the last few days that it's not a very big island. So, what about Santorini attracted you to visit there? Had you gone to other islands before deciding
Yeah.
on Santorini? How did you come to like this island?
Because it's, well, to begin with, it's one of the few calderas in the world where people live on the edge with this amazing architecture. So it's a place of transformation. And again, I don't want to go into spirituality or anything, start sounding like one of the people in the weird Facebook group, but it is a place with a different energy. Whatever you want to read as energy, like its cultural layers, the way it's built, literal mismatch between the image and the reality. It's such a fascinating place that keeps my brain going in circles. Years pass and I still have new puzzles and new things I observe and new research I can put into practice. Which is it. For a small place, it's fantastic how many things it generates if you start paying attention to them. But you have to be certain way of thinker and certain way of looking at things to find it fascinating.
Yeah. In terms of the position of the island, it's quite a way down in the archipelago of islands.
Mhm.
It doesn't appear to be a very large island, but it has it's very volcanic.
Yeah.
So would you say that there's a lot of the fact that the landscape is very particular, a volcanic? I mean, I'm thinking of places I've visited like uh, Tenerife, uh,
Mhm.
that are very volcanic. Would you say that Santorini has similarities, or is it all on its own?
Well, I've been to the Canary Islands briefly, to Tenerife. I would love to go to Lanzarote as well, and I would love to go to Iceland. So whenever I plan things or think about tourism, I do read up on Iceland and Tenerife and other volcanic islands like Hawaii for inspiration to draw parallels to learn from them. But in these places, especially volcanic ones, the landscape does shape your experience, your urban planning for the given value of urban. We're not very urbanized. So whenever you try to divorce your experience from the landscape, that's where trouble starts. That's where people lose trust and get disappointed. And this is also something I'm calibrating how people lose trust in destinations. There is a personality who lives in hotels called Etsy. He's been like 16 years going hotel to hotel, and he keeps saying how hotels marketing is so divorced from the practical reality of running a place from your staff. And it's the same with tours. If we just promise the picture but we don't talk about the landscape, the number of steps, the sheer difficulty of bringing supplies into town, it starts not making sense. You don't understand where this image comes from and why it's so hard to get to this image.
Yeah.
So it's the missing layer, it's the context that not many people feel like they need to include, and that's why people get disappointed as well.
Well, variety is a spice of life, isn't it? And
Yeah.
if you don't go somewhere different, how do you know the previous place you went to? Uh, where was it on your personal favourites table? You had the pleasure of meeting many people who've come to Santorini. How what's the most common ways that people get to the island?
Nowadays, I think I would say the cruise ships are taking over. For us, for private operators, it used to be 50-50. One day we would do hotel guests or day trippers through the plane or even day trips from Crete. Nowadays, I would say cruise ship volume is on the rise, and that's not necessarily a good thing because it's a lot of hurry and it's a very compressed timeline. They don't get to see so much.
Do you find that when cruise ships arrive, then that they can only have so many people on the island at a time, and they tend to go to, like you say, only a few places?
It's a big crowd full problem. I've been talking to one of the captains for a cruise ship line on LinkedIn, and the problem is we're combining problems of Kotor, Dubrovnik, and all of those. Barcelona in a way, but we're also restricted by specific bottlenecks because we do live on the edge and it's high up, and the same old harbor cannot serve everyone. So there is ideas floating around, but practical implementation is hard. So we are restricted by the mismatch between the infrastructure, the way people get up, how they get distributed, what the local operators think, what the local businesses see, because we have everyone. We're talking about hundreds of people in the same tiny village built for a bunch of captains. EA is a captain's village built for a few crews. There were crews and their sailors building all together so the strangers do not get into town. So we're bringing people into places built to deter strangers from ever entering. And we cannot distribute them better because we're not at the same time at the same table talking about the same things. So the stakeholders, they think it's good enough. The local business sees none of this flow. So smaller village, they get zero visitors on the cruise ship day because everybody's scared away. Even hotel guests just stay indoors. And pretty much it's flow like pouring water to a sieve. It's a lot of flowing, a lot of managing, very, very, very little benefit for the small business owner. And I talk about everybody. And some leftovers get here and there, but most of the time it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, yeah. I guess a lot of my guests talk about, it's essentially how you manage these things, isn't it?
Mhm.
Uh, but with a cruise ship, of course, it's a kind of captive audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
That they either stay on the ship or they come ashore. You talk about, the delights of the island are quiet villages and volcanic landscapes. What about them for you make them special?
Again, it's something relatable because I did not live an easy life between the moving and my family story and a lot of the things, and being from multicultural backgrounds. It's resilience because every time you look at these things, they are gorgeous, but they are shaped by hard things, by wind, by time, by rock falls. People who build those homes, they had to carve their living with pickaxes with no guidelines, because I'm more of an autodidact. I've been learning and I keep learning. So these people, they didn't have an architect or an engineer or a university professor. They did have some teachers, but when they need to build a factory pipe, I guarantee you they didn't have an authority from outside to come and tell them that's how you build a tomato paste factory. They just scratch their heads, put their knowledge together. Somebody say, okay, let's try. We don't see the bad ones. We don't see the houses which fell into the caldera. But what stays here is what now university students have to reverse engineer. They come around remapping these homes and these pipes and all of these mechanisms, these wine presses put together from nothing, from scrap metal.
Wow.
So
So
it's inspiring.
yeah. So I guess because it's a volcanic island, then there are from time to time changes in the island that people have to adapt to. Is it something, how often have islanders have had to adapt to change?
Again, now mostly social changes, like the rapid rise of population with the rise of tourism. So more pressure now comes from social things, economic pressure. But we did have the earthquake swarm last year, which got really misrepresented, and it's something I'm always happy to talk about. A friend of mine, Daniel Gurry, they are doing a documentary called Volcano Voices about the swarm, just reflecting all of the picture, not one report, not one swarm of panic posts on social media, but like how we all experienced it together between the scientists and the everyday Marias just sitting in my home with the quakes every couple of hours. So it was one big event in my lifetime before micro swarms. Last big eruption was 1950, so 76 years now. But we still have the junior teenage volcanic offshoot in the open water, which is what's getting studied right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
never as scary as it seems when you read the post when it was to make a headline, or those deepfakes I've seen on Instagram. But also, it's not quiet; it's just dormant. It's building. It's doing its thing.
yes, absolutely. Well, I suppose what you're saying is that people accept that it's there, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they live their daily lives.
Yep. I'm sure it was the same in Pompeii or the Bronze Age people here. Uh, they survived about 5 centuries, 500 years of living next door to a big volcano, a visible volcanic mountain, with fire being right there and regular earthquakes every 50 years or so. And again, I'm quoting recent studies at the Croziery, so that they could see there were several rebuilding phases. They were always picking up the rubble and putting one more level on top and constantly reinforcing their walls using wooden beams to support it. So they were the same like us. They were also living next door to this big barrel of gunpowder and just thinking, okay, I guess it's our reality. Let's keep going.
Yeah. No, it is, as you say, it is a reality. I mean, I went to Sicily one time,
Mhm.
and there's a lot more people living close to Mount Etna. So
Okay.
um, I think people don't, they just accept that it's
Yeah,
there, and they take sensible precautions
yeah,
um, when lots of smoke comes up.
exactly. Or don't take them, which is also fair enough.
Yeah. So talking about the kinds of travel people like, you mentioned slow travel. It's something that's being talked about more and more.
Mhm.
Um, what does slow travel mean to you?
It's exactly what I didn't get to do working for the bigger companies. It's literally slowing down. It's not that you go slow like a sloth in Zootopia, like you're not moving in slow motion all the time. And it sounds funny. That's why people make fun of slow travel sometimes. The young kids and also Instagrammers like, oh, this is weird. It's you just take a break and you let your brain slow down so you can actually experience what you're doing. This is the concept of it. It's brain chemistry. It's not something pseudosciency or very complicated. It's a very simple idea. Just you stop taking pictures for a while. You just pause and you just look and you let it sink in instead of just rushing to the next thing. And that's very hard in the modern life because you have the fear of missing out. You're always on a schedule. You always have phone notifications. And the more our attention spans, everybody's talking about the attention span shrinking. So many distractions around. So it's just letting your brain shift it in this slower mode, which is, I think it's the regular mode we're meant to be in anyway. It's not something like meditation, but the more meditative you can get, the more you let yourself just look out there into the distance, just sit in your balcony, the better it is for everyone, just for calming down.
Yeah, I think you're right that we are meant to be like that, and it's actually human society that has created this intense way of living. Um, I certainly noticed it when I uh, went into semi-retirement a few years ago, and I went back to where I used to work, and I
Mhm.
couldn't understand why everybody was running around. And
I want your job sounds more fun. This is
so
my favorite joke.
yeah, it was a big joke. So if slow travel is really about just taking in the moment, um, how how does that work into appreciating local culture more?
I actually have a really good example from today because we had a very short tour, 3 hours. It's like an express tour. You basically get to see maybe three, four places. We ended up going to only two. But when we were in this main village of Iya, which gets a lot of negativity, like there is nothing slow you can do in Iya, there is this icon painter who's still using gold leaf on his icons. He doesn't allow pictures. It's very high value, but it's fantastic work. But the moment of slowness was not him. It was his son, who's a watercolor painter. And I've been watching him for these years, and he's getting better every year. And his kids are painting now. So we walked in with my clients and said, "Can we go?" I said, "Yes, please. Of course we should go." And we entered this little cave surrounded by his dad's art, which is massive, majestic church style icons. And he got these little miniatures, like this size, windmill painting. But he points at it once they pick it, and he tells the story why he painted this corner of here. And he talks about his childhood, like, this is the house of my friend, which is now an Airbnb, but they were the only ones who had ice cream. They were the only ones who had an ice box when he was a kid. So whenever they walked by, he knew he was getting ice cream. And we just had ice cream too, so they still had the flavor of ice cream in their mouths. He told this lovely story, and this is just a moment. He's talked about it. He talked about it for a minute, but now they will have this memory to go with the picture. So this moment, we're not silent, we're talking, but also we're paying attention because we're quiet. We're really focused on this one image, this one impression, which is something we're going to remember. And that's also very important for slow travel because the moments when you slow down is the moments you remember later. That's one of the key questions for tour and experience design I'm working on. Because if you don't build your experience, people stay, or whatever you do in your hosting around these kinds of moments, it's just going to disappear. It's going to be replaced by the next trip to Bali or another island or wherever they go. It's just going to be wiped out because there is no memory anchor.
Yeah. No, well, it sounds like you've made a link between moments and stories. Are you building stories uh, more strongly into what you do now than
Yeah,
you used to?
yeah, because this is the breach. This is where my storytelling can be alive. I am still writing on the side, and this is where my passion for storytelling can come through. And people write it in reviews. I don't prompt them. I picked up a lot of reviews over time. I screenshot them also for me to remember these people and what we did. But they mentioned me as a storyteller more and more, and it's something I'm really proud of because I managed to sneak it into the existing scripts and made it part of how I host people.
So it sounds like uh, you attract people who are looking for something different.
Yeah,
Would you say that is true? And is it easier to find travelers that are looking for something different than it
I'm
used to be?
again. Yeah, I would say it's right now. I'm building this kind of let's say distribution system, and it's something I would love to work out so I can share it with others. Not because I'm Mother Teresa or something, but I have so many passionate friends and hosts who don't know how to get their ideal clients in front of them, and I'm specifically using marketing language because that's where I went to study this. How does this work? Because there is these distinct voices. My voice is not the voice of Rula or Katerina or Paula. We all have the person who needs to hear us, who would love to hear us, but we have no clue how to put this person in front of us on a predictable basis. So it's pure luck, and we say I'm luck. I always say I'm so lucky with my guests, and it's true. I seem to attract my people. We'll say, "Hey, they're from my planet. Let's go." So when we combine me and Paula, the two oddballs, and we get the people from the same planet, it's a blast. It's the best thing. But that's my goal for this year to build a more. It's never going to be predictable. We live in this kind of world, 2026. But I want to create the exact digital voice website combination, a circle, a life cycle community, if I can, where these people find us before we just run into each other. Because I ran into people in IA and they wanted to do a tour with me just because I was chatting in their ear for a while. This happened to me so many times when my boss didn't get bookings through his OTAs and people would just want an experience, and then, and then we do a tour. He's like, Mary, go find some clients.
Yeah.
It's completely backwards in the modern world, but I feel like if I get a moment to just chat to people on the street, it's much easier to get them to join me if they're my people than standing out on the internet sending out a clear signal that this is the thing you're looking for.
Well, of course, if they are there already,
Yeah,
they are halfway there, aren't they?
yeah, yeah.
I always like to throw in a question about planning versus spontaneity.
Mhm.
Where do you like to sit? Are you more of a planner, or do you like spontaneous activity when it comes to travel?
I would say I'm responsive, so I like taking cues. That's why I like this interview format, because you ask me questions and I can just bounce off it. So I bounce off my people. When they're planners, I become a planner. So I follow their rhythm. They, if they like, they will bring me a grocery list of stops. Santorini does have a limited number of things you can do, but there is always a checklist for these kind of strategic planners, I call them. They come with the list, with the screenshot, with a picture, with something they got told, and they want to do step by step, and that's how the day goes. And if there is anything spontaneous, only because I see an open chapel where a candle is burning, I say we need to go there because this is a family chapel open once per year. But people who love improvising, who like, we trust you, Maria. It's the favorite thing for me to hear. We trust you, Maria. Let's do Maria's choice. Let's just go where you go. And this is where I can be most comfortable because I'm improvising. I'm looking at the cues. I see crowd there, we take a side turn. I see this place is busy, we eat somewhere else. I see this winery owner is in a bad mood today, so we go to the other guy. Not because he's worse, but because he's having a day. I don't want his annoyed self because he's not gonna be happy later either. So it's reading the room, and that's why I like the small scale, because in a big city it would be too much information. I would need the digital clones we keep getting promised. I would need the second AI brain to calibrate it for me. But in a small place, I can process this much information, everybody's mood, what's going on, where the cars are, where the police is, because they don't love us parking anywhere. So a lot of these little planning things going on, improvisation works better. Overall, it gives you a better, more flexible experience. But when people are more comfortable having a plan, having a structured itinerary, a lot of them book through the platforms because that's the format they understand. You have to go with their rhythm and do your best around any last moment changes you need to make.
Yeah. No, you mentioned an interesting word there, rhythm. So, would you say um, the island has a rhythm?
Yeah, like a heartbeat. It's it's like people have these trackers and these bracelets. I don't have one, but I measure the steps I take, and this is kind of a pulse, which again I don't really visualize it, but I feel like there is a beat, a seasonal change to it, cruise ship day rhythm, then now springtime awakening, and it's kind of a pulse. You get a feel for it, not right away, but if you live here a while, it's kind of running in the background of things for you.
So I looked at the average temperature charts. It's fairly high most of the year round. Well, I live in the United Kingdom, so we're not used to high numbers. So maybe it's just my perspective.
It's
How,
definitely your
how's
perspective because you guys come in shorts when it's winter and wearing winter jackets. It's always Brits and Canadians and people from Alaska in little shorts and going swimming.
yeah, it's different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I remember seeing somebody come from, I think, Greenland or Iceland, and
Mhm.
I thought it was cold here, but he was in shorts, uh, and I thought, well, it must be really cold up there.
Yeah. Or Finland. Uh, I just found this lovely tour operator who gives you instructions how to dress for being comfortable in Finland. And they almost convinced me to go there because before I would see their temperatures and say, no, I'm not going to survive there. But they give me very good detailed instructions what to wear, how to dress for that kind of cold.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's all relative to what we're used to. Now, I wanted to ask about the places on the island that mean something to you, and you mentioned walks that you like
Mhm.
going on. So, could you tell me about the parts of the island that sort of make you smile? And you know, if
Yeah.
I need to go for a walk, I will go there.
It's actually where I ended up moving because I had to change. We're renting. Like again, I keep saying to my friend, if you don't have grandma's house, you don't. If you don't have your own cave, you're in trouble. You have to keep renting. So this neighborhood here, it's a very appropriate name for me. It's called Ambush Caterados. So this window here, I'll open in summer and I ambush people because there's lost tourists down there and they never know where to go, and then I can pop out and give them instructions and comment on their life choices. So this is the ambush where they used to trap pirates, and it's really well hidden. There's three streams, they call it tristratos. It's like big fork intersection, and you can go on endless walks because there's this bunch of these decaying old homes, the old grandeur, the mansions with graffiti painted by kids, and then you have all of these caves if you go further, and then you can track lower down. And these kinds of neighborhoods, there's several. There's Finikia near Ia, there's Carterados, there's Wodenas, there's Megalohori. Burvulos, you need a car to visit. But I have these four sunken neighborhoods which disappear below the ground. And if you go across to our neighboring island of Tirasia, you can do the same there. There is another operator who does this activity. It's really fun. So these neighborhoods where you can disappear into the maze of old glories, different eras, it's always very fun. There's always some new details I keep finding.
Oh, right. So when you say disappearing into neighbours, are you really talking about going back into ancient history, where
Yeah,
you?
well, they are not as ancient as Akrotiri because again we have the restricted area, the main archaeological site. Restricted is in it's covered up, it's under rooftop, it's got its museum too, but you cannot just wander in there. Which is a shame because you don't feel like you're visiting them. You feel like you're getting a lecture. It feels like a museum, but you don't get the feel for the people who live there. That's the lack of interactivity I keep mentioning, and I think it's a shame because these are the people who ate the first proven meat skewers. They were the first people to eat souvlaki in Greece. And ladies who wore beautiful cosmetics from Egypt. And a lot of the everyday things we would find relatable if we just could go and visit them like neighbors. So here it's more 19th century going 18th, not that ancient, but it's still enough weight of everything. And of course, the lava goes back to 17th BC, so the natural formations are very old.
Yeah, yeah. So, history and travel. Would you agree that they have a close? There are close relations.
They do go side by side, but again, it depends on the place. So I was looking at women-led tours in New York, and it's fascinating how much of the urban tours differ from our kinds of more countryside tours, let's say, because again, we're not very urbanized. So cities have their own different layers of history, and travel is not always compatible with history. People have a lot of misunderstandings about it. So sometimes they're close friends, sometimes they're clashing, and it's very interesting. Like Africa, for example, people now, India, Africa, there is more and more options when you can live near to a tribe, be part of a community. And if you come with a lot of preconceptions from your history lessons, you're not going to have a good experience before you get some calibration, some orientation from your travel leader. So I would say sometimes they work against each other, even though they shouldn't. But just history lessons, people keep rewriting history, telling it differently, and insisting this is the right way to tell it. And it's unfortunately it's not apolitical, it's not divorced from our modern day world, where travel actually helps you shed preconceptions from your history lesson. So I would say sometimes travel is more honest and sometimes it's more dishonest when it's fantasy travel. Like you want to experience the dream, but you don't want to see anything real around you.
Yeah, but travel has a habit of telling the truth, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it does reveal it in the end, and very often faster than a history book, which is what I find fascinating, because history, again, I'm not from academia background, and I got burned with academia minded people. That's why I keep kind of being leery of them without meaning to. But I think they have a lot of this high and mighty attitude with history and archaeology, living somewhere high above in the mountain, and we're the lowly ones poking around in the mud with our hospitality and our commerce and everything. But I think it's not try to put academia so high up when we are also living the actual things going on the ground, and we're the ones keeping the history alive for many people. Many of them, they will never get to talk to a professor, and it's not going to be possible. I love Rhodes Scholar, by the way. I love this kind of educational trip, and I think we could have more of that here. We have a lot of material for it, because right now our university professors living on the island, they give you free tours. I join those walks to learn, to transmit this knowledge further, but they don't directly interact with the visitors, and it feels like they're not there if you don't know about them.
So it almost feels like they're a secret resource.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're like hiding out there. If you want to, you can borrow their knowledge, but they're surrounded by their walls, and feel like you have to go through several levels before you're even allowed in.
So, are there many farms on the island that people can go and visit? And what sort of things are, um, yeah, what sort of produce are grown?
It's an interesting question that you ask. Many people would not think about farming like related to Santorini, but actually it's one of the few dry farming environments historically which managed to grow three PDO crops, protected crops: grapes, cherry tomatoes, and fava. So if you go towards the south side, a little bit towards the archaeological dig, but more inland, you do get the farmers growing things and having farm to table tabernas and making the old goat milk cheese. Again, they're few. I would not say there's a lot of them left, but they're still around. And what I see, it's the revival where younger generations make their own organic farms. I know at least two: Santa Organics near Ia, and then Microgreen one in Pirgos, which is I'm about to visit it. They grow their own microgreens, and they don't have a menu, so people can visit and just have a regular unscripted unplanned meal, whatever's fresh in the season, and you can see how they grow their green stuffs and their veggies.
Yeah, I was going to ask you whether you can actually go and visit some of the farms, but so I imagine
At
it's
least two you can visit because they adapted, and there's one more. I'm trying to ask them if they would be okay with visitors, because they have their goats, and it's very cute. Whenever I keep seeing glimpses of them on Facebook posting videos from their backyard.
yeah. And how about wine growing? Is there uh, local wine that visitors can um, try out?
Yeah, it's been the number one industry for the longest time. I would say historically, it's the main surviving Jurassic Park relic. They're coming back from Akrotiri times. So this is the only industry which kind of bridges the gap between the old and the new, and we do have growing wine tourism. The thing is that, of course, logically, as we humans do, uh, the vineyards have been neglected, and there is a gap in generations. There is a moment within the 90s, and I would say 15 years ago, when nobody was replanting enough. So we're coming to the consequences. We're now at the low harvest point with dramatically shrinking harvests. So now is the big breaking moment where we're going to see what happens. Last year, one of the old school winemakers passed away. It's one of the reasons why I broke off and decided to do what I'm passionate about, where I can still collect these stories and talk to these people, because he died quietly. There was a funeral, but there was, I would say we should all be mourning, because this was an amazing place that's never going to be there again, because he didn't leave an apprentice. His widow was terrible to his staff, not because he wanted to, like, she wanted to be terrible, but just that's how it happens. So they moved their thing. They opened a different place, but not a winery, and now it's one more of the traditional wineries of the map. He only made 10,000 bottles, and it was all organic wine, and some of it planted by him 18 years ago. So small ones are struggling. As far as I can see, it's quite hard for them. The big ones are growing, but the big ones are getting more and more modern. Not always in a good way. Like they still make great wine, and but
Yeah,
the thing is, this great wine it's easier to buy in a supermarket because the beauty of the small place is the winemaker or somebody from the family or somebody who's part of the family in a different way. They pour you, they tell you the story, they do what I like to do, they chat with you. It's what they did back there at Art Space. Every time I brought people, if they weren't in love already, they fell in love there. I got my 3, 4 hours. If they haven't fallen for the island, this is my last one, last resort, let's say. Final stage where they're gonna fall in love. If they're at all wine drinkers, it was gonna happen. So
yeah,
when they do the old pour, the usual standards, inspired by Napa Vole and how modern things are supposed to be, the wine is still good, but you don't get this personal experience. You don't get to feel like you went back in time or like you met somebody. You just
yeah.
get your 4 wines, your little platter of food, and then you go on to your next place.
Well, I think you're right, though. When you get a bit of history and conversation uh, with the producer or the manufacturer, or as you say, um, the person that showed him painting something,
Yeah.
you're getting more, aren't you?
Hmm. A lot more.
Let's think about. I was going to ask a question about when do people feel that they've arrived on the island, and you've mentioned one reason. Then, do you think people have do you think they come to the island with any misconceptions, and they're not sure what they're going to find, or do you think people are uh, they're researching more, so they have an idea of what they're going to get? How's your feeling of what travelers are up to these days?
I actually love this question because it's going to get a plot twist. The more people research nowadays, the worse it goes for them. People who don't research, they have a better time of it because, like you, they have rough idea. Maybe they don't even know it's a volcano, but at least they have an open mind, and it's not that hard to break down what's going on. But if they come with the preconception from an influencer or from somebody they or a blog they read 5 years ago, oh my god, it's much worse. Or I remember talking to a colleague, somebody that's really into ethical tourism, and the only idea she has about Santorini is we're abusing donkeys. So I have a captive donkey in my backyard, which I'm beating every day. So, you read one article, and I'm an animal lover and I rescue cats, and I'm a crazy cat lady of my neighborhood. One of the grandmas trying to exercise me. So it's real. She keeps crossing herself every time I pass by. So I know the awareness and the campaigns about animal rights, and it's very serious. And I'm not making fun of the animal suffering, but I'm making fun of the people who read one article about the place and they come with this idea in mind, and that's all that's happening there for them. So I have a lot of people who think we're all riding donkeys and then beating donkeys up, or people who think we're all living on we all have infinity pools and it's actually our lifestyle, and people looking for restaurants which don't exist anymore. Or today, Nia, I met a lady who had this AI generated picture and she kept trying to find it. It was very realistic. It wasn't over the top like 10 domes in one frame. You would not tell if you didn't live here that it's a fake picture. And this is the worst because now people are so influenced by listicles and picture series, and they try to find the exact place, and very often it got repainted, it got photoshopped. They moved the flower pots, and it's not recognizable anymore because you cannot freeze the entire place in 10 frames.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, it's a very strange collection of events that can conspire to make a trip exactly as you imagine. I
Yeah.
mean, I went to a place with a family member in Italy, and everything worked exactly how we wanted. You know, all the planets were aligned, and yet, having booked the same hotel, the same
Mhm.
week, and went back to the same place, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It's, it took ages to figure out that actually there are so many dynamics about a journey. As you say, you can take a picture, but you cannot recreate the picture.
No, unfortunately or fortunately. At least
Yeah,
until we have like virtual space, virtual realities we can build for ourselves.
it's interesting, isn't it? Do you think you were saying that people have a better experience when they have no preconceived
Much
uh,
better.
um, idea? But do you think people are beginning, that people are looking for better experiences? Uh, uh, Perhaps they'd like to be more intentional. Do
Yeah.
you get that feeling?
I've been feeling this for a while, more and more of my travel. The problem is it's kind of, a lot of things, a lot of the distribution systems, and I took in general like career job market, for example. So the employers are looking for certain kind of things, the workers are looking for some things, but HR, the careers coaches, the headhunters are not doing what both sides need. And the same with platforms, like people who book through Viator or Get Your Guide. And I'm not trying to make them the bad guys because it's a business model, but people think they're booking direct, and I think they're being intentional, but they're supporting a platform which is taking all of our profit. Like their commission's 30% plus. It means the local operator gets nothing. They're just doing this so they can pay their staff their salary, but a lot of local operators who live off OTAs, they're barely making any profit, just keeping things running because that's how it is. You gotta keep your business running. But people want to be intentional. They want to support somebody local. They're always very happy to meet a local host. And even the word local, it's kind of loaded on Santorini. Like I'm sure there's these neighbors who will say I'm a weirdo who's not a local, but by local I mean somebody who's passionate about the place or connecting people with the place. So I will not lie and say if you move me to Thailand, I would not try to do a tour for somebody over there. I will go around, I will learn, I will be a tour guide over there too. But only if I fall in love with the place. And I keep saying this to everybody. Another island, if it didn't work, if I didn't love it, I would not be doing this for that island. Because I do feel like I'm doing something for the island just by telling its story in a better way. And I hope it creates a domino effect of somebody changing their minds about a lot of things, or about how they travel, or about who they meet. It doesn't have to be me. It can be just a painter, or just a farm, or a winemaker. That there are a lot of lovely people for every kind of personality. Even for solo travelers, you don't have to be part of a group, or you can just go off by yourself. On the opposite, you can bring 20 people to certain hosts, and they will be happy to meet them, but you need also to know who's okay with a bigger group and who's going to be stressed by so many people at their door.
Yeah,
And the platforms hide this because you make a list of things, but they don't let you say this is experience better for 4 and this works for 20. You can at least all possible variations, so you have to list the same thing for everyone. And so all of these different peoples press on the same button, and they all expect their own vision of what they want to do, but there is no moment of calibration. Like you can have a talk with them and ask them what are you looking for. Is this going to work for you, a number of people, your personalities, your travel style? And there is a bunch of questions there.
yeah, I think so. Do you think there is a greater need for redefining what local means, so that, um, well, as I like to discuss with my friends and colleagues, that more money goes to the local people? Do you think do you think people would pay a bit more, or do it in a different way, if they knew that more of what they spend stayed local, rather than going via another route? Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, it's what I'm staking my whole business model on. I'm choosing kind of not blindly, but I'm choosing to believe people will want something more genuine. And again, For me, local means it's somebody whose livelihood is here, because we have a lot of these seasonal businesses. Like, again, both of my main employers, a lot of people are based in Athens, and at some point, your passion project or your baby becomes your portfolio. And the point where this becomes portfolio is when it's extractive. You cannot call it a portfolio instead of a house or a place. It's just a number. It's just something, but it's not where you put any part of your heart or your passion or your soul, or where you care what happens. So at the point where this disconnect happens, where it becomes abstract, I say that that's where we have to say this is not local. So it could be a person who was born here and they left and they don't care anymore. And we should not be rewarding them in terms of giving them more money than somebody who's fighting on the ground to keep the place open just because they live here 10 years. And there is an architect born in Athens who came here after the earthquakes, and she restored a lot of Ia, and she became the driving force behind how Ia looks right now. And she doesn't get credit, but somebody who built this place, and because it's their last name on the street name, they get all of the story. So we need to redefine where we put the credit and what we reward, what kind of behavior we reward in terms of a place, especially where it's a place that lives off tourism. Because if we just keep splitting it this way, and if we don't really define what hidden means, what authentic means, what local means, they're very loaded words, very overused in marketing, and it feels like an easy sell. Like, all of the local operators say tour with local guide. Everybody, there's nobody who doesn't advertise as local guide. And now it's meaningless because everybody has the local guide in it. And what does it mean anymore? What experience are you gonna get? Usually that's why people get mistrustful too, because sometimes it means they're just gonna bring it to their friend's fish tavern to get commission of selling a big fish, and that's fair enough, but it's also not really supporting the economy, because the tavern could be run by somebody from Albania, and that's a lovely country, but he's gonna sell it to his cousin next year. So there is no easy way behind this. That's the trust layer I'm talking about. Like, you have to judge through these small actions, the small signals, the big picture, the mosaic of all these little details, instead of one big marketing catchword. As attractive as it is to say, like, tours by locals, a platform, uh, a lot of the locals on that platform, they are not hosting personally, but instead they just hire employees who host instead of them, even though their whole format is supposed to be this person gets to host you, and they're not running a company. They're just supposed to be like taking you around their neighborhood. So
Yeah.
one word or one onboarding format is not going to fix it. That's why the more direct connection with the traveler keeps things more honest, even if it's harder to organize. So for sure, there is a need for more of this direct matching, or easy way to pull out and to do something more. Because I know a lot of people would feel more comfortable with the big boss, their own group, and that's fair enough. But again, the planning needs to be less stressful for the community, and there needs to be enough options for those who want to go deeper. So the local business stays alive, the people get the experience they're looking forward to, but also it's less difficult, even on the big boss people, because uh, they are not herded so much through the same lane where it's so difficult to navigate.
What do you think about the idea of it's really, experiences are more about asking the right questions? You know, why are people coming? What do they want to feel? You know,
Yeah,
being,
exactly.
being more
That was the right
being
word.
more emotional.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head there with what do they want to feel, and that's another trend that's been going around. Platforms like Personita in Dubai, and feel emotion-based travel, transformational travel also. People do come for a feeling more than for a place, and that's very true for Santorini. Another of the school studies, that's school of life for me. How I realized how people were chasing a feeling, and very often they would get this feeling from a movie, like, again, like Mamma Mia or My Big Fat Greek Wedding, or any feeling they want to get. This feeling of Greece, it's a feeling of Greece. It's actually the soothing, like your podcast background, these soothing colors, the sea around you, good food, warm company. It's like a warm hug, basically. It's people chasing warmth and connection. That's what Greece means for many people. And say I'm doing Greece, they're not really saying I'm doing bad tourism. Well, I'm off to eat at McDonald's, so I'm off to, I don't know, do all those things we don't approve of. They're saying I'm off to do this big, warm, nice connection thing, and usually those people tend to live in bigger cities because if it's somebody from Italy, they're not impressed by us at all because they're not chasing this feeling of Greece. They've got feeling of Italy back home. That's why I find people from the States, some of the UK, though UK tends to be more beach travel people and like full package travel. It seems to be very, very big operator run. And Wales, South Asia, I've not been able to connect much with the industry side of Chinese travel. I love my Chinese and Singapore visitors because I watch some of their dramas and I always have something to talk about, but I've not been able to see how they plan the trip. Like I don't yet know where they get the idea of Santorini, what exact picture there is. I know the Bollywood one, Bollywood part for India is big, and they dress. Indian travelers here are some of the best dressed travelers you see. They're so gorgeous. They're all ready for their own music video. It's amazing how prepared they come. Like everything is put together for the perfect photo shoot. So for
Wow.
them, it's a bit glamorous. Like they come more for the glamour, and a lot of them they work hard. It's expensive to travel. So I've noticed they are very price aware and very, very, very touchy about feeling like they're being ripped off or overcharged, but it's the high stakes. It's like me when I travel because I'm on the lower side of income, and I'm also very price aware, and I'm always quipping about the price of coffee everywhere. So I understand. I would also dress up to impress, but I would be picking at coffee prices in the coffee shop versus America and countries where, well, now I don't know where that's going, but overall, people are more casually dressed and more chasing this feeling of warmth and connection, inspired more by a mass of cultural storytelling, but at the same time also getting the cultural side. So that's the perfect combination. You feel like you've done some history, you've reconnected with the roots, with what you used to study, what you get told you're supposed to appreciate, like the stories, like the democracy, and all of these modern myths we tell ourselves. And then you get this nice warm hug. So it's like mom and dad in a way. The dad lectures you about all these samples and things, and then mom gives you a hug and a meal, and the grandma brings a pie, and it's like a full family reunion in your trip. That's why Greece works so well for certain types of traveler.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a little while ago uh, trust.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how important is that in terms of what you're trying to deliver?
It's everything. It's the most difficult thing to build because in the digital world, that trust means being transparent about what you do, what you don't do. It's very difficult to say no when you're building something. You feel like you need to be chasing your customers. You need all of those people and bookings. But I think it's more trustworthy to be upfront and say this is not for you. And I respect your position. I respect what you're trying to do, your budget or your needs or your preferences. But it's important to redirect people to something that fits them, and I think that's more honest, again, more trustworthy. Collecting testimonies in different ways, not because reviews, again, everybody collects reviews, and people already they read the reviews, but they're already starting to get tired of 5-star reviews because they all seem the same. And every time I get an original review, something spoken from the heart. That's why I screenshot it, because this feels genuine. It cannot be faked. It cannot be written by AI to put on my website because I feel like it. But also some videos, personal brand is becoming more important. That's why even though we don't, Instagram is not always comfortable, it's good to have video archives, video presence, and your storytelling presence. So you have to create a circle of trust, a few things in place, because just one part of it, just the reviews or just your license or just all of these things have to come together. And it's the most delicate thing because one thing missing can lose you trust without you realizing. And even an experienced operator who's been running things for a long time, a few decades, they can make a very basic mistake and come off like they're not honest or trustworthy because they were slow to reply, time zones were different, or they sent a link that looked kind of wrong, or their bookings flow is not clear enough. And that's where technology comes into it, because with a bad website you can lose trust even though you're perfectly great in real life.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think people value discretion?
Yeah, it's again here it's so visual and so visible, and we do get different backgrounds, different types of people, and a lot of them, they don't necessarily come for the spectacle. That's what kind of draws them away from Santorini, because it feels like you're gonna be the spectacle, you're gonna be too visible. And so it's important to create this more quiet, more private space, which is not necessarily expensive in terms of being an affordable and only for high net value travelers. Like you need your private villa on Mykonos to get a break, get some privacy. It's also something that we need to work on as a destination, because it feels like only if you're Angelina Jolie you get to be invisible, but otherwise everybody's going to be looking at you. But you don't want this feeling, especially for example, wheelchair users struggle here a lot, and you don't want people staring at you and discussing all of your difficulties along the way. But there's companies like Here Under the Sun, a local operator, Santorini Experts, who does accessible tours, and they create this combination. It's easy, natural, and it doesn't create a fuss. It just happens during the day, and people are way too busy taking their own pictures to pay attention. But it starts with, again, with your website, with your social media, where you normalize and say you're going to be taken care of. It's not going to be something that never happened before. We're not going to summon the whole village to look at you, and so on.
Yeah, it's important, I suppose, to have a natural approach, as if
Yeah.
you actually know the people you're
Yeah.
meeting better than you actually do. It's kind of it's being personable and welcoming, isn't it? And
Yeah. Trying to be like not over the top, because again it comes with experience. You don't always get it right, but overall the formal kind of hosting, that's why I'm a bit grumbly about the big wineries, because they started being very robotic about how they host people. Like you have to come and check in at the door, and the sommelier, usually it's somebody trained with a script, and you feel like in a call center or something. Like they rattle off all of their lines and then they go away, and then you don't feel again like a welcome visitor, even though it's all perfectly professional.
yeah, yeah. No, but the smaller is good in that respect. So I often I like to challenge people who uh, have lists of things to do. Would we've talked about slow travel and concentrating on local. Do you think the visitor can generally get more out of their visit by doing a lot less?
Yeah, I've been putting this all over the place, like fewer stops, better days kind of motto. I put it in my captions on Instagram just to motivate people not to overdo it when they put lists together. So again, removing things doesn't mean they're missing out. It means just they have more space, more energy for what they would really enjoy. Because overall, my experience with big itineraries and full day tours, they don't end up ticking off all the boxes. You end up removing things, and they would often not notice that we're removing things. But the thing is, when you start removing, of course, it's a communication issue, because a lot of the guys would make mistake. Like Akrotiri used to be one of the most painful points. You promise people we go to Akrotiri, but you don't have enough time to combine Akrotiri and lunch. So you have to be very sure what the priority is, where you pick. Do you want to sit down and have your meal, or do you want to stay on your feet and explore the archaeological site? There is no right and wrong. It's a trolley problem. You're just sacrificing something. But if it comes last moment, I guess it's not going to be happy, because suddenly at the end of the day, 1 hour before your tour's end, you find out you don't get to do all the things you were expecting to do. But it's physically impossible. So it's an important discussion. Even if you cannot fix the tour description, if it's not up to you, at least you can discuss priorities and diplomatically explain that it needs to be calibrated for your priorities. But I
Yeah,
ended up removing a lot more things than adding things to a tour overall.
yeah, yeah. Overall, you probably have a better experience uh, by doing fewer things. I can think of many examples where that's happened, and it's actually more memorable
Yeah.
than to tick boxes. Now, I wanted to sort of gradually wind up our discussion
Okay.
today by
Sure.
asking your feelings about, well, I suppose about the future, about what's next. How would you describe how tourism is affecting the Greek islands generally? What sort of challenges do you think um, are coming up? And what would you like to see happening?
Well, that's what I'm building. I see a lot of people buying properties and making it more commercial and trying to consolidate the money flow back to Athens. And of course, it's a negative effect on the locals. I worked with this villa as a mindful tourism trainer, and her neighbors pulled down the Byzantine wall to make more room for their pool. So this scenario where the walls are being torn down, the vineyard is dying out, it's a real danger. And it's not too late for us to create a safe bubble and lead by example, because of course there's going to be always going to be greedy people, but there's also people on the fence, people who don't realize. A lot of my colleagues don't realize how fast things are moving because they grew up in a slower world and things are speeding up, and you don't always notice how fast things can go wrong. So leading by example, giving voice to these challenges, trying to create more mindful moments, even if it's just a few people. Just as example, I think it can create more examples for others to be inspired by. And if it annoys somebody, good, because they're supposed to be annoyed, because it's challenging their assumption, the status quo. So my hope is I can create at least some positive influence, some good impact, give voice to the lady who's struggling with her neighbor where the wall is being torn down, give voice to people who feed the stray cats and nobody knows how hard it is, and just create a more layered, more complex story than just poor donkeys or heat or lines of people. Because if everybody collectively stops traveling to Santorini, we're in trouble. And the first people in trouble will not be people who have portfolios because they will buy something else before it's too late. They will reinvest. But the icon painter, the farmer, the winemaker who only has this one winery and nothing else, they're going to be in trouble. So that's the paradox. When tourism shifts very fast, the most vulnerable ones are also the best people you want to keep in your tourism environment. And this kind of resilience, it can be built through new technologies, through better matching, better distribution for what they're offering people. That's where AI can work much faster. But AI speeding up this human, the one-on-one part, this human conversation, which we still keep having, but it has to be enabled, it has to be facilitated by this matching where people know it exists. There is a platform for it. There is a way. There's a way to find this, and there is a way to contribute. So my
Yeah,
ideal future is this: the AI powering this kind of more precise matching between the experience and the person looking for it, and creating enough of us just to keep some things around, even if the major trends are towards acquisition and big building.
I think you're right. Uh, the trend for matching the right people for the right kind of tours is a good approach, because people are looking for different things, and they need people to help them, and technology, whilst it is changing a lot, it is a tool that we can um, that tourism can use to its advantage.
Yeah, a lot
Well,
of things. Yeah, thank you so much for all these questions, and thank you for the
well, we
opportunity.
could chat for a lot longer. Um, it's been a pleasure having a chat to you today, Maria. I obviously wish you tremendous luck with your new venture. It's very new. You're clearly very passionate about it, and well, I think the strongest thing that's come across to me today is that you like talking to people, and I think the people side of it is, you know, the crucial part. And as long as people keep visiting the island, you will keep having people to talk to. So that's
it's the most inspiring thing, because that's why you can work with AI, with tools, but it's like it's a soundboarding tool, but it's an echo chamber. You just keep hearing yourself reflected back at you. But when somebody else challenges you, helps you get better, helps you find the answers you didn't have yesterday or just moments ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wish you good luck with it, and that it turns out the way you hope it does.
Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting me.
No, you're
Thank
most
you for the
welcome.
chat.